Everyone, just leave Broderick Jones alone. And by everyone, I mean starting with the team. Good morning to you. Good Monday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into hockey and or baseball. I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates that I hope you'll check out. Watched the game again. Slow-mo, rewinding, all that stuff, and didn't get any better. Bills 9, Steelers 3 was actually a lot uglier than any score or any statistics would indicate. And it wasn't uglier for anyone than it was for this kid. I'm not here to defend his performance Saturday night at Acrisure Stadium. Greg Rousseau of the Bills didn't just take him to school. He took him outside the cafeteria, beat him up, and then reached into the pocket and grabbed the lunch money as well. It was brutal. And it wasn't even necessarily technique-based. It was just physical. He just overwhelmed him, mostly up high. One of his sacks came on a simple two-fisted punch that sent him backward and then sent Najee Harris backward on top of that. And the other just came through a steamroller. He had the upper hand with the upper body, and his legs were churning, meaning Rousseau, and Jones had no answer for it. Now, he also had no answers for reporters after the game, explaining that he needed to go see the doctor, which is why, and I'll repeat this from yesterday's program, I'd first rather hear what that might have been about before coming to any sort of overarching judgment. If he's hurt, and bear in mind that Mike Tomlin didn't mention him being hurt, then we're having a decidedly different discussion. If it's just inexperience, if it's just a matchup, I can't say that either because, we watched Jones last season, didn't we? You remember anything like this? I tried really hard to recall even a series where I had significant doubt about Jones and his ability to withstand a single pass rusher. So I'll repeat what I said over the entirety of last season. Kid was really, really good. And that didn't vary much, by the way, whether he was on his natural left side or on his right side. Now, that said, everything I'm about to say here is not intended to be any kind of excuse for the way he played against Rousseau and the Bills. Rather, it's a solution to a problem that might or might not exist. And that would be this. Leave him alone. Meaning, you drafted him, you traded up to draft him, so that he could be your left tackle for the next decade. You insist again and again and again, meaning Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan, and Khan just reiterated it within the past week. Jones is going to end up at left tackle. He's going to end up at left tackle. He's going to end up at left tackle. How about now? How about now? Not to try to cushion his fall from a bad night. Not to try to make him feel as if he doesn't have anything to overcome. He does. He got manhandled. But because it's fair. Because it's the right thing to do. Not just for the athlete, but for the team. The team needs not one, but two solid tackles, or none of this is going to work. None of what we're talking about is worth a minute of the time that we invest in it. Unless you can envision some scenario in which Justin Fields takes over as quarterback and he's just running around like a headless chicken for 3 hours, you're not going to have an offense like this. As Tomlin intimated after the game, we have no choice but to fix this. Okay, great. So start by doing this. Tell Jones, not later this week, not at the first real practice tomorrow, today. Tell him today when he walks into the building, you're our left tackle. We trust you. We believe in you. We've put a lot into you. You've given a lot back. It's time. You're our left tackle. From there, go find Troy Fautanu somewhere else in the building. Check on how his knee's doing. See if he's going to be cleared to compete this Saturday in Detroit. And then tell him, you're our right tackle. because that's why we got you, just like we got the other guy to be the left tackle. Can I tell you what's going on here? I mean, I've brought this up before here, but now that the issue has really come to a broader light, because people don't pay attention to offensive lines until something bad happens in a game, all they're doing is protecting Dan Moore. I love Dan, okay? I have nothing but admiration for him on and off the field. But when you as a team commit back-to-back first-rounders to a left tackle and then a right tackle, and you're realigning one or both of these kids because Moore is uncomfortable on the right side, your priorities are completely out of whack. Completely. So if Fautanu can't go against the Lions, and if that puts into question whether or not he could start the season or even have had enough reps to walk into Atlanta confident and capable, then you move Moore to the right side. He's got 2 whole weeks to figure it out, and I've spent the better part of my football covering career talking with linemen who tell you that it's not easy switching sides, but it's also not impossible. Get it done. Put Jones first. Put Jones at left tackle. When we come back, J1Q. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George is a personal injury law firm in Western Pennsylvania that represents injured people in automobile accidents, workers' compensation cases, and medical malpractice claims. The attorneys at Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George pride themselves in doing what they say they're going to do. It's important to them that when they make you a promise, they keep that promise. And this law firm has been keeping promises for over 80 years. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George has been AV rated. That's the highest rating a law firm can receive for legal ability and ethics. And the lawyers at the firm have been designated super lawyers, that's a real thing, for over 15 years. Rare combination there. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George has offices in Cranberry, Newcastle, Beaver Falls, Butler, and Elwood City. Learn more about them at lgkg.com or by calling 888-842-5454. Again, that's 888-842-5454. Today's J1Q comes from Vince, who says, who are the playmakers on this offense? Honestly, DK, watching this game against Buffalo, I'm not sure the Steelers have a single one. The offensive line's got to play better, but man, I haven't been so sold on the Brandon Ayuk trade as I am now. I mean, don't say they don't have any playmakers, okay? There's no need to stretch a lousy night into something that'd be a lot scarier. George Pickens makes plays. Jaylen Warren makes plays. Pat Freiermuth's been making plays left and right all summer long. Now, when I talk about playmakers, and we're all free to have our own definitions of this, and maybe mine is misguided, I talk about players making something out of nothing. And I apply that to every sport that I cover, not just football. For example, I'm not going to suggest that Connor Hayward makes this list, but Hayward's little hurdle the other night was pretty cool. There wasn't much there. He made something out of it. The players who can do that regularly, the players who can exceed what you're hoping your X's do against their O's, the ones that get you a little bit extra, that's who I'm talking about. And that's why I was making the case for Justin Fields to somehow, at some stage of the season, become part of this offense. Now, I did notice in the reaction, in the comments, some of those on our app, DK Pittsburgh Sports, some of those on YouTube and elsewhere, dismayed that I would leave Najee Harris out of this group. And one guy said, why are you always criticizing him? I didn't criticize him. I didn't put him in this specific bracket, that's all. Najee grinds his yards out. That's what he does. Najee also has a history, and it's statistically supported, of breaking tackles. And I guess one could make a case that that's playmaking in its own way. He's getting you something you didn't expect. My issue, and the only reason I didn't put him in with these other guys, is that I don't see him doing it on any sort of consistent basis. To which, and others did point this out as well, how can you put Freiermuth in there if he's not healthy? Okay, well, that one's easy. when he's healthy and they utilize him correctly, he's a playmaker. Whose fault is it that he wasn't utilized correctly? Meaning that he had an offensive coordinator with an outright phobia of the middle of the field. Is that Freiermuth's fault? Might have been on his quarterbacks to a degree, but it was way more on the coordinator and not at all on Freiermuth. Anyone who has seen 88 this summer knows exactly what I'm talking about. All you do is put a ball up in his area code, and he's coming down with it, and he's coming down with it in an athletic stance, ready for more. That's a playmaker. But the number that we're talking about, even if we include Najee, isn't enough. And I remain on the side of adding. Externally, I don't know that there's anything more that the Steelers could do on the Ayuk front. That sounds like it's entirely his to determine at this point. But he's not the only player out there. He's not the only player who'd help you. He's not the only player who'd be an upgrade over either Van Jefferson or Calvin Austin. And when the Steelers have in the neighborhood of $20 million in cap space still, with the ability to gain more through restructures, there's work to do. And it's getting dark outside. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. We're going to do another one of these tomorrow.